Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Shadowwraith, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 things beginners tend to forget. Okay? I mean, if you're a veteran of the game, do give this video a listen, because there are some things I learned as well, and this is coming from games I've recently played where I've gone, oh, I didn't realise that's actually how it worked. Fantastic, good to know. I've checked it in the rulebook and things like that, FAQs, whatever. And I thought I'd make a list and just let you guys know, because you might have missed some of these and it could help you out in the next game you play, or tournament or event, anything like that. Anyway, here we go. We'll start with the number 5, using your mount stats. Right, okay, let's say you're a Mordor player, you've got a Warg Rider, fantastic, you've been charged, never mind. Okay, what are you going to do? You look at your profile and go, right, okay, I'm just an orc. Okay, 1 attack, strength 3, wrong. That's not it. What you can do is you can choose any of the stats from your rider or your mount. You have to use the highest fight characteristic, so, I mean, they're the same. Your Warg and your Orc are the same fight, so you'll be fight 3 still, but your Warg is strength 4. You can choose to make your strike strength 4. So, yeah, you just nick his strength characteristic. And this goes with anything. If for whatever reason your mount has more attacks than your rider, you'll use their attack value. Yeah, anything like that. So, you can use the fight value of your mount if it's higher than your rider, the strength of the riders, and the attack characteristics of the riders. You can mix and match. You always pick the highest out of any of them. Okay? I didn't know that, and that's really handy. Okay? I don't tend to play with many mounts that aren't horses or camels. So it was quite new to me, and I know my opponent the other day didn't know either. He had a Wraith on a Fellbeast, and he didn't know he could use the Fellbeast fight value, which, I mean, it's quite a new mistake, and he was a beginner. I was teaching him. But yeah, no, just these are for beginners, okay? And sometimes you might not know it yourself if you're a veteran, which is fantastic. But that's all I've got to say for that. Okay? Now, we're going to go with number 4. And this is all about cav bonuses, so cavalry charge bonuses. Right, you charge a model, an infantry model with your cavalry, you're going to get your cavalry bonus. Cavalry bonus basically is an extra attack on the charge. If you win that dual roll, so you get an extra dual roll dice. If you win, you knock that enemy prone, which means you get to roll double the amount of attacks you have, including your cavalry bonus attack you got. So if you only had 1 attack and you charged, you have 2 attacks. That becomes 4 attacks to try and kill whatever you have just knocked over. Okay, you will lose this cavalry bonus, however, if another cavalry model gets involved in the fight, or fighting cavalry on cavalry, or fighting monster on cavalry. So if you charge a monster, you won't get it. You will also lose this bonus if you charge into a wooded area, any kind of difficult terrain. And I only bring this up because I played a fully mounted Rohan list, and I was playing with my Corsairs, and they were shooting me off the board because I've got low defense, but we had a lot of trees and a lot of footprints because we play with trees as footprint of difficult terrain, and I hid a lot of my guys in the trees. Luckily, I had the center objective in amongst the corpse of trees, so I stuck all my guys in there and basically went, come at me. And the Rohan army did. And the advantage I had when I wasn't getting knocked prone for losing duels, and they didn't have 2 attacks, they had 1 attack, and sometimes 1 attack to my 2 if they went in against a Reaver, it was massive. So if you're playing against a heavy cavalry list, get yourself in some terrain. Make them charge into terrain if they want that cavalry bonus. Or try and get one of your cavalry in just to counter it, because sometimes that's a very legit reason to bring cavalry in your list, to counter other cavalry charges. Fantastic. That was number 4, so cavalry bonuses and how to get around them. Number 3. This is all about using might and when you can use it. So, everyone knows what might is. If you played the game for a little bit, you can use it to call heroic actions and modify dice rolls. There is a list in the rulebook of what you can use it for. So you can use it for things like taking tests, so courage, climb, jump, throne rider, anything like that. Dual rolls, shooting, so to hit or in the way. Rolling to wound. Courage checks, I've gone over that. For using will, so if you want to alter whatever you've rolled to resist or cast. And using fate to alter that. Okay, so a lot of people don't bring heroes with two-handed weapons. And the reason they think is, I don't get to use my fight value. That's not correct, because the order it goes is basically, you both roll your dual rolls, you apply any modifiers to it, so -1 for your dual roll, and then you can add might. So if you wanted to, you can put King LSR or whatever with his hand and a half elven made sword that wounds on 4s normally. You can say, I'm two-handing with this, roll a 6, it goes down to a 5, then you can still use a point of might to bring that up to a 6. So it will cost you an extra point of might, but you can still do it. And that's if you really need to kill something like a very heavily armoured troll. You'll be wounding it on 3s. Fantastic. The other thing that I've noticed that some people don't know they can do is when you're modifying your dice rolls, you don't only have to modify them up, you can modify them down. So, in some cases, you can choose, so for example, Maelstrom of Battle, it's randomly determined deployment, you roll a dice. And I've used it where I've rolled something like a 3, so my enemy would pick where I'd go. I didn't like where the options they had to where to put this warband, so I've mighted it down so he'd come on next turn rather. So I must have rolled a 2, sorry, because I mighted it down so he didn't turn up this turn, so I had another chance next turn to roll it, because I'd rather him not be on the board and get absolutely jumped on by 2 warbands of elves than have him come on, okay? But you can also use it for things like courage tests. So if you're in a tournament, and this is a bit of a jammy move because I've had it done to me and I didn't really like it, but you can do it. I'm about to win quite a lot of points because I've got to storm the camp, take their base. I've broken them, well, I've nearly broken them pretty considerably, okay? They had one more guy to get him down to 25% who needed to pass a courage test. And he mighted his courage test down, so he'd fail, the game would end, and I wouldn't get all the victory points I could have. That's another way of using might. I don't like it, I don't think it's a very nice way of playing, but it is a legitimate strategy in a tournament situation. I probably wouldn't do it, but you can. Why not? Anyway, that brings us on to our next one. Number 2. Special strikes. Weapons special strikes. So many people forget to use them. Please don't, okay? Because they are amazing, some of them. Right, just quickly so we can go over a few of them. So if you've got things like hammers, maces or mauls, you can bash. And I've only used bash once. It's okay. Basically, if you win a dual roll, you can choose to bash with any model that is armed with one of these weapons. And what you do is you roll a d6, you and your opponent, and you add your strength values together. If you've got a two-handed mace, mind you +1. If you beat your opponent's roll, that model is now prone. It gets knocked prone. And the reason this is good is because if you've got multiple guys on this model, you can then double up the attacks of the other models because he's now prone. Okay, I've just read it in the rulebook because that's not, I wasn't sure if that's how it worked, but apparently it is according to this. So you can get to, sorry about that. You can get to a hero and get really lucky with a roll and bash, especially if you've got something like I don't know, a half troll. I think they've got something. Anyway, something with high strength. You can bash him, knock him over, and then the rest of the guys can jump on him. Now, feints or stabs with daggers and swords. I probably wouldn't ever feint. I never have. There's no point. you have to reduce your fight value by D3 if you faint, but you get to reroll ones to wound. Doesn't seem like a good trade-off because you want to keep your fight value. It just seems better. But if you low fight value anyway, and you're like a goblin or something, and you're really cheap, screw it, stab. Just stab. I mean, if you lose the fight, you're probably going to die anyway, but you get to reroll ones to wound if you win the duel roll. The downside is you take 1 strength 2 hit immediately after the fight has been resolved. That's if you lose it. So, I mean, oh well. It's a goblin or an orc. It costs no points. You might as well. And then the amount of times you roll a 1 and go, oh, I can now reroll 1s, and it turns into a 6 is, yeah, it's uncanny how many times that happens. Now, the biggest one that I want to talk about is Piercing Strike. Okay? Use Piercing Strike. If you're going against things like Dwarves or Army of the Dead, I play Army of the Dead, okay? And I am reminding my opponents you want a Piercing Strike. Because, not in a tournament setting, I'm not silly, but in friendly games. Because the downside is you lower your defense by D3, which against things like Army of the Dead doesn't matter because they attack your courage, so who cares? It's all bonus. But what that does is you increase the model's strength by 1 when they strike. Yeah, it's really good. It's really, really good. So, I mean, if you're fighting dwarves or anything like that, you can do it. If you've got low defense anyway, who cares? Piercing Strike is awesome, and you can do that with axes or picks. Yeah, the amount of people that don't. Alright, clubs or staffs can do this, and it can be quite useful if you get lucky. Now this is what my half troll has definitely got. Basically, if you win a fight, you can choose not to strike. Instead, you can try to stun them. Roll a d6 on a 5+, or a 6 if the target is a monster. Yeah, you can stun a monster. The victim is reduced to a fight value and attack value of 1. And a shoot value of 6+, until the end of the following turn. You may wish to place a marker next to the stun model as a reminder. Okay. Let's just say you get into a fight with a pretty big hero, and you don't have enough in there that you think you can kill him. Okay? I don't know, Glorfindel, for example, or just insert any big hero, or even a troll. You've got one guy in with a club or a staff, or 2 guys maybe, and you somehow miraculously win the fight. Screw it. Try and stun him so you can get more people onto him. Fight value 1, that gets rid of a massive threat. A 6 is not an instant win. If anything, a 6 is an instant win for you. And if you've got someone like, I don't know, Gil-galad out in the open in the middle of like the field, and you can get guys onto him, absolutely give it a go. Because a 5+, and he's fight value 1 and got 1 attack. He's got 1 duel roll. Yeah. That's actually really good. And, okay, the last one is Whirl. So that's for flails and whips and stuff. Yeah, you reduce your fight value to 1, but instead of hitting one person in the fight, you can hit everyone in the fight. I probably wouldn't. I've never used it, but that is something you can use. The last thing I want to cover is the Throne Rider table. Okay? And I only bring this up because I've had a game recently where, I mean, we both forgot it, to be fair. So I thought I'd chuck it on this list. Basically, you roll a 1, everyone knows that's bad. You take a strength 3 hit, and you're prone, and you can do nothing else for the turn. Okay? So, 2 to 5, this is where people forget. The rider disentangles themselves from their mount, but can do nothing else for that turn. So, the only upside to rolling a 2 to 5 instead of a 1 is you don't take the strength 3 hit and you're not prone. But you still can't do anything. And you can't make strikes, you can't shoot, you can't cast magical powers. So, if you dismount anyone in your your hero you're shooting, they can't shoot you back if you've got priority. If you dismount them at the start in the movement phase by an impact hit or something, they can't, and you get into combat with them, they can't strike even if they win that duel. Okay, everyone knows the 6 is good. They basically stand up, they're good to go. Okay, they suffer no penalty. Anyway, that is just a few things I thought would be good to know. Thank you ever so much for listening, and if there's anything else you can think of that I can cover, please let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you think. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.